So we are here. We're almost done. So maybe it will take us 20-25 minutes. Okay. So let's continue from here. As I've said, distance, even though distance is a factor affecting international trade or trade between two nations, borders could also be other factors, okay? That even though the distance between the two countries is closed or two states is closed, still the border, if there is a border between two countries, then the distance, even though they are close with each other, the borders might affect the international trade. So here, as we have already said, number one, here is Washington, and this is Canada, right? The south here is the US, and the north is Canada. So number one is Alberta of Canada, and number one here is Washington in the US. So these two states are very close with each other. Washington and New York are very far from each other as compared to Washington and Alberta. But still, the trade volume between these two states, between Washington and New York, is larger than the trade volume between the Washington and Alberta because of the border between these two countries. Okay? So you can see here, this is the trade volume in Alberta, 6.9, 2.4, 2.0. These are the trades percentage of GDP. So trade with British Columbia. So these are states in Canada or province in Canada and their trade with British Columbia. And these are the trade volume between British Columbia and Washington states. Okay, or I mean United States provinces here, right? So you can see that it's small. As I've said, Washington and New York are close each other. Are far from each other than New York and Washington and Alberta, but still states within the same country have high trade volume as compared to even the close states from other countries. Okay. Anyways, this is just to show you that borders also affect the trade, even though the countries are close with each other. In the borders, there are some formalities and also some currency exchange issues that affect the trade. Okay. So, what are the changing patterns of world trade? Has the world got smaller? Okay, this is the question. So this is our last topic in this chapter. So the negative effects of distance on trade, according to the gravity models, is significant, but it has grown smaller over time due to modern technology, modern transportation and communication. Okay, so last week, if you remember, I've said that transportation and information communication technology are the two biggest factors that has contributed a lot to international trade. Okay, so still now, the fact that distance affects international trade is true, but due to the cost of transportation being less and less, and due to the information communication technology advancement that helped this buyers and sellers to easily communicate and easily track their products, then trade has increased even with countries very far from each other, in opposite to the gravity model. Okay. Okay. So even though countries have a big distance, a lot. Even though countries are very distant from each other, the modern transportation and communication has helped to improve the trade between these countries. So technologies that have increased trade are, well, so this is long time ago, right? You have sail, compasses, railroads, telegraphs, steam power, automobiles, telephones, airplane, computers, fax machines, the internet, fiber optics, okay? Personal digital assistants, the GPS satellites, for example, the GPS satellites has helped to track the location of products when a product is shipped from the company to customers, right? So these are technologies that has contributed a lot to trade, even though there is a distance factor that affects the international trade. So, and also there are political factors, okay? So again, I would like to remind you that last week we have said that international trade issues are not always trade issues. They are sometimes interpreted into political issues, okay? I'll give you an example. If you take the United States, United States has the highest sanction of import and export on Russia, right? So do you think that it's only motivated by trade? No, it is political, right? So now, so long time ago, countries used to be called powerful when they are equipped with nuclear powers, right? But now, to control a country or to influence a country, you don't need nuclear weapons. You just need international trade, right? Because, for example, now, US and Canada have a highest export and import, right? So US might force Canada to do something in favor of the US, okay, without having any war. So this is through trade. So US has sanctioned Iran and Russia, so several sanctions, and the economy of these two countries was hugely affected due to trade sanctions, okay? So trade sanctions are used a means to influence or to affect or you can say to force other countries to do something, right? So political factors such as wars can change trade patterns much more than innovations in transport and communication, okay? Much more than transportation and communication, political factors might affect trade between two countries, okay? So the world trade grew rapidly from 1870s to 1930s. Then it suffered a sharp decline due to the two world wars, because as we've said, there was World War I and there was Great Depression. And then after that, then it was reviving again. There was immediately after 17 years, there was again 20 years, there was again World War II. Then that again has affected the international trade. So it started to recover around 1945 after Second World War, but did not recover fully until 1917. But in 1917 it was good. Then again it was hit in 2008. So anyway, since 1970s, world trade as a fraction of world GDP has achieved unprecedented heights. So vertical integration of production has contributed to the rise in the value of world trade through extensive cross shipping of components. So, you know, vertical integration means when we say a country is a multinational corporation, I mean, a company is a multinational corporation, as I've explained, the parent company could be in Korea, but due to cost of transportation to ship these products to Africa or Europe, this company can open its plant in Africa or in Europe and produce these products from close locations so that they can easily transport these products to their customers in Africa, or they can open a plant in Europe so that they can produce these products in Europe and sell it to their customers close by. This is called vertical integration. Okay, so you try to expand your market vertically to get close to your customers and decrease the transportation cost. That helps a lot to international trade. Okay, so this is the fall and rise of world trade. You can see that it has been increasing since the 1945, which was after the Second World War. Okay. Then what do we trade? What kinds of goods and services are we trading? So what kinds of products do nations trade now? And how does this composition compare to trade in the past? Okay, so as I have mentioned, trade in the past, so a long time ago, mostly manufacturing products used to be exported. Okay, so today, most of about 53% of the volumes of trade is manufactured products such as automobiles, computers, and clothings. But now if you see the US, the volume of manufactured products sold has decreased. Okay, services such as shipping, insurance, legal fees, transportation fees, and spending by tourists account for about 20% of the volume of trade. Okay, and minerals about 19, agricultural products about 8. So actually, long time before industrialization, there used to be a higher percentage of agricultural products being traded worldwide. Okay, but after industrialization, then manufactured goods took the highest percentage of goods being exported and imported. Okay, then you can see this here, this data. We have 53% manufacturing goods and products. Then we have fuels and mining about 19, services about 20, agriculture about 8. Okay, so you can see here services is getting better and better. Okay, so service means, for example, it could be consultancy, it could be software companies, it could be insurance for the tourists, it could be transportation costs. So these are called services. And products are manufacturers are producing goods, tangible goods to be exported. Okay. So in the past, a large fraction of the volume of trade comes from agriculture and mineral products, as I've said. In 1910, Britain mainly imports agriculture and mineral products. Also, manufactured products still represented most of the volume of exports. 1910, again, the US mainly imported and exported agricultural products. 2002, manufactured products made up most of the volume of imports and exports for both Britain and the US. So as I've said, it used to be agricultural products that constitute the highest percentage of import and export, but now it's manufactured products. So you can see this data from Yale University, produced in 1966. Okay. Amount of import and export in 1910 and in 2011. It's not that significant actually, right? The exports haven't changed big in the United Kingdom, right? In 1910, it was 75.4, 2011, 72.1, okay? But imports have increased, 24.5, 69.1, okay? This is in the United States. Then low and middle income countries have also changed the composition of their trade. So it is assumed that this low and middle income countries largely export agricultural products, but the trend is now changing. Okay, So in 2001, about 65% of exports from low and middle income countries were manufactured products, and only 10% of them were agricultural products. Okay, but in 1960, the highest percentage, about 58%, was agricultural products. Okay, so now we can say that there is a shift in low and middle income countries to export manufactured goods than agricultural products. Okay, but in reverse now, mostly US is exporting agricultural products to other parts of the world. So more than 90% of the exports of China, the largest developing country and the rapidly growing force in the world trade, consists of manufactured goods. Okay, so this is the trend, okay, in developing countries. So developing countries are countries with lowest economies, right? So you can see that in 1960 up to up to 2000, I mean, up to 1980, the large volume of agricultural products were exported to other parts of the world. But since then, since 1980s to still now, these developing countries are exporting manufactured products. Okay, so the trend has shifted from exporting agricultural products to manufactured products. Okay, and the last thing that we'll talk about is service outsourcing. So this service outsourcing is also called service offshoring. Okay, so even within the manufacturing sector, there are things that could be traded as a service. Okay, as we have said, service is like insurance, transportation cost, and other services. Okay, and telecommunication services are also included in service. Okay, so service outsourcing or service offshoring occurs when a firm that provides services moves its operation to foreign locations. Okay, so service outsourcing can occur for services that can be transmitted electronically. So a firm may move its customer services. So for example, most of the customer cares or customer call centers are in India, right? So most of these American call centers are located in India. So this is called service outsourcing, right? So other services may not lend themselves to being performed remotely. So other services are difficult to do it from the remote location, just like call centers. But again, as I've said, there are services that could be traded. Service outsourcing is currently not a significant part of trade. Some jobs are traded and some are not traded in the service. So you can see here the percentage. So in tradable industries, about 40% could be traded as a service. Okay, for example, 12% of the manufacturing, 7% of the retail or wholesale, and 40% is professional service, education, personal. So this is the data from around 2005, but now it is 2020. This might have significantly changed. But the point I would like to make here is traded services are increasing. So even now, 40% of the tradable industries, 40% of this world trade could be a traded industry or a service that could be traded to customers easily. Okay, apart from those that can be treated from remote locations. So, anyways, there are tradable services and non-tradable services. Tradable services are services that you can easily offer from wherever you are. But there are services that you have to be there to. For example, counseling you can give online, right? And robotics would help you to do surgery, right? But there are also other services that you have to be physically available to get the service, okay? So for example, in the hotel industry, so you have to be there to get the service of the hotel, right? So anyways, this is about tradable and non-tradable services. So this is all we have for this chapter, okay? So mostly it's about world trade, and I want you to read more about World Trade Organization, and also if this page has already loaded, let's check, but it has, this is still not loaded, but if you can check this OEC World on your computer and see the import and export level of Korea, and also the trade balance of Korea, okay? So I want you to refer to what kinds of products Korea is exporting and what kind of products Korea is importing from other countries, okay? So I have one question from a student. So it says, does the trade of fuel between US and Iraq was not free, was not fair, due to which the war was occurred between them, or what went wrong between them in terms of their trade? Okay. I don't know about the political background or about political conflict between these two countries, but I don't know. There are some conspiracies that the US would like to get the oil from Iraq, but I can give you example between Iran and the US. So these two countries are in a conflict, political conflict, right? Because US is blaming Iran of helping the Syrian fighters, right? But the United States hasn't taken measure on Iran using war or any means. What the US has done is it's imposed trade sanctions on Iran, right? So now trade sanctions means sanctions on export and import, right? So now these trade sanctions are used as a means of or as a negotiating way between two countries who are in disagreement with each other, okay? So what I'm trying to say is, now trade or international trade is being used as a means to influence other countries. You don't need to engage yourself in a war, okay? So US might say, I don't want to do any, I don't want to buy any products from your country, and also impose sanctions through world trade on this country. So the economy of the country will be hugely affected, okay? You can see the case in Venezuela, okay? So because of the political disagreement between the US and Venezuela, then trade has, the US has imposed trade sanctions on Venezuela. So the economy of the country has been hugely affected, okay? So the US is using these trade sanctions as a means to influence other countries, okay? So that's what I would like, I wanted to say. So this is just the summary here. I hope the answer is clear. If not clear, then we can discuss this later, or you can just post the question on the portal so that we can discuss about it, okay? So in the discussion forum. And so this is a summary. I will leave this summary for you to read. And again, as I've said, I would like you to refer to the OEC World about import and export, and also to read about World Trade Organization, these negotiations and agreements, okay? So we have regional trade agreements, we have free trade agreements, right? And I want you to refer to the World Trade Organization website, WTO, and get more information about WTO, okay? So I thank you very much for having me. I'll see you next week. I'm not sure whether we'll have offline class or online class, but stay connected and check the information from the university whether we are going to have online or offline class for next week. So this is all I have for today. I'll see you all next week, and have a good day.